Okay, the remaining part of this section is not that difficult. First is about packing. What is packing? If a series of comma separated expressions are given in a larger context, they will be treated as a single tuple, even if no enclosing parentheses are provided. Okay, what does it mean by that? A series of comma separated expression means any value. Let's say I have 2, 3, comma 5, comma 7. So this kind of expression, Python will consider it as a tuple, even though you have no parentheses. Without parentheses, Python will automatically think that this is a tuple. So let's see. Because this is the automated packing. Suppose we have data, and then I've just put 2, comma 3, comma 7, comma 9, comma 11. Okay. So if you print data, then it will be automatically considered tuple. So that's the meaning by the packing. There is packing and there is unpacking. What does it mean? As a dual to the packing behavior, Python can automatically unpack a sequence following one to assign a series of individual identifiers to the element of. So, for example, I have a range. Okay. Range. This a sequence. So, if range is from 7 until 11, it means 7, 8, 9, 10. So, I will have 4 values. And I want to put every of these values into a variable. So I need to prepare at least 4 variables. So when I call this range, every of these values will go. So 7 will go to A, 8 will go to B, 9 will go to C, and 10 will go to because of this. That's it. A, B, C, D equals to range 7, 11. So I want to know A. A is 7. I want to know B. B is 8. I want to know C. C is 9. And I want to know D. D is 10. Okay. Because this is untaken. So for every of this value can be automatically assigned to the variable. And in Python, you will need to use, sometimes you need to use the built-in function, okay, or built-in definition. Okay. So the standard Python distribution includes maybe 10 of thousands of functions and classes that are organized in the additional level. So we call this is module. So the modules can be imported from within a program. So if you are using now the Python, the Jupyter notebook, then you can just use import. Okay, so there are so many import layers. If you use map, then you can use many things. For example, let me show you. I'm going to use math, so I'm import math. So when you want to call math, you can just press dot and then press tab. Tab is the tabulation. And you can see there are a lot of functions that you can use for this mathematical language. From the a cosinus, a sinus, and so on. So there are so many, like E is a number, and then expression, factorial, floor, gamma distribution, GCT, and so on. So they already provide those functions and you can utilize it for your, maybe your program in the subject. So for example, let's say I want to make the pi. Pi equals to math dot we have this pi. So let's print. This one is the constant given by the mathematical library. So there are so many other libraries, so we will learn more by the time. So the existing module, there are so many modules like array, collection, copy, deep, math, OS, random, RE, SIS, time. Whenever you need this one, you can just use it. Not all of them, but some of them later. Okay, this is the end of the item for the basic. I go to the next section, which is about object. In the object oriented, there are so many things you can learn, but I will just explain the basic. We will learn about the basic or the object oriented, and then what is the design principle, and then we will learn about some abstract data. For the basic object oriented, we need to understand why we will use the object oriented. The first reason people say this robot. We want software to be capable of handling unexpected inputs that are not explicitly defined for its application. So, for example, we learned previously, if someone gives the n negative number, so if you use this object oriented, you can try to manage. If any negative input, you do something, so the user will be of adaptability. This adaptability, software needs to be able to inform in response to changing conditions. So once you make the program, it will be changing sometimes. Now you can pay with cash, but later you need to pay with credit. In the future, you don't need any card. You can pay with smartphone. Then because your code should be different. Your code should be improved. So this object oriented can handle adaptability and reusability. So the same code should be usable and operate different systems in various applications. So once you have a code, you can use the code at the other. Now, the terminology in the object oriented means, so what object? What is object? object created in a program is an instance of question. What is, I will explain again about this instance, but let's say I have a class. Class, it is to define the class name. And then that, or we learn about function, and it is to define the method. Now let's suppose this is a class diagram. And then I have a class with this person. This represents the class name. So I create a class person. And then I have one method. So I can say this is a method. Say it is a function or a method because we can see from here. And this function or this method will print. Oh. So its class present to the outside world a concise and consistent view of the object. It means if I have a class about person, so I will explain many things about the person in this class. So the instances, it means for every person. So if the class diagram is about student, then it means the instance will be for every student. Maybe student ID 1, student ID 2, student ID 3. Okay. If the class is about courses, then the object or the instance will be course ID number 1, course ID number 2, course ID number 3, and so on. Okay. So we call this is the instance. We call instance. We have three instances. We have three objects. And for every class, we will create something without going into much unnecessary detail or giving other access to the inner working of the object. So when I create this class, I can give to other person to access this data or to do something. So above example shows class of a person. So this So a person object means I will have the class definition typically specify instance variable or later as a data member. And we will have method or one member object. Data member is any information that the object contains. Let's say in this case person. This is the class name. The data member is now blank. And the methods, each person can say hi. So the object of each person can be represented as the data. So to create the object, we can define the identifier and call the class. I have the class person. So I can create the object 1, or this is the person number 1, P1. And the person number 1 equals to person. So the object number 1 is created. We can just think that it is the data number 1. The person number 2, P2, is created. And we can think this is the person number 2. The P3 is the next person, and we can think that this is the object number. And so every of this object can be created by calling the class. The class is the person. And for every of this object, it has access to call the method. Why? Because by definition, we have one method. So we can call, for example, T1. I want to call the method. I can just put dot. I can just put dot to call theta. And then when you call this one and you run it, you will get the result. All right. Okay, now let's try. Let me make a new file. So let's see. Let me make a class person. Okay, so this is a class. And then in this class, I would like to have one method, which is say hi. So we need to put self at this moment. Let's just do like this one. And then I will print how are you. Okay. Okay, so yeah, you can just follow this one, class person, and then you need to have the column. The column means it is to verify that this is the ending of the first line, and we want to go to the next line with different definition. So this is a function, and the function name is say hi. I will explain later about self, and then we put the column. So if we call this function, we will print column. So I can create the first person. First person, I will call the class name. When I call the class name, should be included with the parenthesis. So I have P1 and P1 can access the method. You can put the dot, and then if you press tab, okay, then it is automatically to show say. Because it is a method, you need to put the parenthesis. It will print I have the second person, P2. So I can also make an object of the second person. The person P2 can also say hi. How are you? Okay, and so on. You can make your own object. Let's say I want to mention about Park is also a person. So Park, I would like to say hi. Then here we can also have. It means now we have three objects, T1, T2, and okay. a class. Okay? A class serves as the primary means for abstraction in object-oriented. So we already learned that have a simple class for person. In Python, every piece of data is represented as an instance of something. So you do more later when you go to the details of the data structure. Every data will be an instance of something. So a class provides a set of behaviors in the form of member function. So we already have one method with implementation that belong to all instances. So here we call P1. So P1 can affect the method because this method is in the class. A class also serves as a blueprint for its instance. It means any information for each instance can have like attributes or also can have the method. So the attributes become sometimes true, we call it sometimes instance variable or sometimes data method. So if I mention attributes, please don't confuse because it can refer to field, it can refer to instance variable, it also can refer to data method. So they are the same meaning. So in Python, we need to make the self-identifier. The self-identifier plays a key role because in any class, there can possibly be many different instances. So like we already learned, we have the P1, we have P2, and we have part. That means we have three. But if we have 1 million instances, so Python needs to understand which instance that they want to execute. So it must maintain its own instance variable. Therefore, its instance stores its own instance variable to reflect its current state. So later we learn more how we can use the stuff. It means synthetically self-identify the instance upon which a method is in. So if we have self, it will be only specific. If we active P2, then it will be specifically for P. If we active top, it will be specifically for. So every instance will have different, let's say, name. Every person will have different age, and so. So this is a complete class diagram for the simple person. Okay, the class diagram has at least three. So first we have the class name, or this is the name of the class. We have the data member, which is the instance variable, and we have the method. This is the method of the class. For example, here I have person, and I will need to define name. So every person have name, and then it's every person has. Let's say for this time, I will just make this data with only two at two data. And in this class, I would like the user to be able to get the name. Get name in, yeah. Because I just know the object P1, I'm not sure who is P1. So I need to know the name of I also need to give access or get it. It means whenever I want to know how old is P1, then I can set this. Or I want to active. So this set info is to active and maybe the person name has been changed or the age is wrong at the first time. So you want to change. Now we can have the person object with argument. Let me just explain this one first. Okay. So to create object, we can define the identifier and call the class like this one. P1, I would like to specify that the person name is Bernardo. So inside the parenthesis, I can put name. I have another person, P2, and I want to put the name as yeah. It means the person one, the ID or the object is P1 and the person, the object P2 and the name. And to call the method, we use dot to access the method, like what we already saw before. Say hi, and I would like to call Bernard. So how can we make this? Need to make something like this one. Okay. So before I go to this, let's have a practice. Uh, I have class person, and I want to put the person name. So I want to put the person name. It means so I want to put the name. For this name, I need to make this init. What is init? Because this is initial. So whenever you create an object, you need initial value. Initial. And then for this initial, I will have one variable. What is this variable? This variable is the user name. And then this variable will be set into the variable name. We need to use star. You know, every object different name. That's why we need to put the star to indicate its. So star.name equals the name. Name is given from the user. And then can define like this. I have the say hi. Again, I will make self because I need to define which object. So I'm going to print how are you, and I want to print the name. Okay, so this is the simple one. Now, if I want to make P1 equals to person, there will be error. Right? In this case, we already define one variable. for the class. So we need to include at least one argument. Let's say I want to put part. So P1 name is part. How can we access the name? P1, okay, when you press the tab, you will have two options. So what is I? I means instant, or this is the object. F is function. By this definition, you can see that function. And name is a variable of the function. So if you want to see the name, then you will see part. If you want to call the function, because it is a function, so you need to put the parenthesis, then you will get how are you, and then they will call according to the name, which is okay. Let's say we want to make another person, P2 person, let's say Lee. So you can do anything. Let's say I'm just looking for this method. Okay, how are you doing? It will be printed. If you want to check the key to name, then the name is. Whenever you access the function, you need to put the bracket. If you want to access the instance, you do. So when you have the first, class, we don't specify any argument. In the second example, we specify an argument. So this argument depends on how many. In this case, I have only one. So I have only one. But if you have name and then it's then something, then it means you need to act according to the number. Okay. So this is a class, okay, that can be represented with this class. So the name of the class is person, and we have one variable which is name, and we have one method which is name. Now, internally, this result in a call to the specially named init method that serves as the constructor of the. So the constructor means it is to create a new. We call it constructor, or you can construct a new. Sorry, construct a new object. Its primary responsibility is to establish the state of newly created person object with appropriate instance variable. So if we have this init or the constructor, we will provide the person object with the correct instance. And the other thing that you need to know here, now let's look at this class. Class here represent public. Public means every person can access the data. Every person can access the method. So we will learn next. We will learn about the private. Private means people cannot access the data. So the data member, it means the code create a data member name using self.name. So this is the data member, self.name. Even though the class diagram only name, but in the Python, you need to make it with self to indicate for everything. And yeah, you need to put the equal sign to assign this name into this. And the person object contains one method and one argument. So this is one method and we have one argument. So method, this method is to execute this method with any data in the object. So let's say this object name. Okay, I have name. So I can just call self.name. If you have another variable, let's say x, so you can also call self.name. So whenever we call the data member in a method, we need to include self identifier such as self. So this is the way to call variable or data. Okay, so this is, yeah, just recall again. Whenever you want to create this class, we just make one argument. We just make one argument that represents the name of the person. And then when we want to access the method say hi, yeah, we will get the name according to the given name in the class first time. So the argument is now stored in the variable name. Now let's make a little bit more complex. So I would like to have this kind of class. So this is a class of student. And this class consists of two arguments in the constructor. So I have student name. I have student city. Say this is the person, the student city where he lives. But according to this diagram, we have three variables: student name, student city, and student score. Okay, the student score start from here. So it is possible. So you can define any variable as you want, even though it is not in the object. So we have two arguments in the constructor and we have three data members. We have three data members. And in this class, we have four methods: get student name, get student city, get student score, and then set student score. And then in this case, I would like to give one parameter. The variable score will be initialized as 0 when there is no behavior info. So if I will give any score, then it will be 0. Now let's look at this one. How can we play this? Yeah. Let's yeah. You can try to copy and paste this one. I'm not sure if it is able, but let's see. So it is a class of student. And then you have the init. It is to construct the class. And then we have two arguments, student name and student thing. The student name will be the value for the variable or data member student name. The student city will be the data member of the student city. And the score will be 0. So if I want to get the student name, I will call this method and then it will return student. If I want to get the student city, I will call the student city and it will give the. If I want to get the score, I will just get student score and it will return the student score. If I want to set the student score, so I can do the set student score and then give one argument. So the score will be filled into the variable 4. Now let's see. I will run this. Okay. Now let's have student 1. So I think I give one example here. Okay, student 1, let's say the student is B and he lives in Yongin. The student 2 is a student with the name C and he lives in Seoul. So I call student and then the student, let's say B, and then he lives in Yongin. Okay, this is student 1. And then I have student 2, yeah, because based on the definition, you can see there are two parameters, student name and student city. So I need to give same student C, and then I leave the student C live in Seoul. Okay. Now let's see, student 1, S1, if I press dot, and then if you press tab, it means there are some functions that you can access and there are some instances that you can open. You can access get student city, get student name, get student score, and then you can access score, you can access set student score, you can access student city, you can. Let's say I want to know the score. Yeah, of course, the score is 0. It is not good practice to just call the data. Usually we avoid this one because in this kind of object oriented, why we need to make this object oriented? Because we want to make sure that the data will not be traceable from the. So in order to make available for other people to know this data, we should create a function. So usually, if you want to know the score, then I will just call the get or get student score. So using this one, it is more simple. So the student score is 0. So let's say I want to update the student score. So the student S1, he or she get the score 80. So I can call the function set student score and I give 80. So now if you want to know the student score, it becomes 80. So after you update the value, then it becomes the new value, which is 8. Now I have student 2. Student 2, now I want to know the student score. The student score of S2 is 0. Okay, I want to update the student score. Set student score. The student 2 got 90, for example. Then after I set the student score to 90, then I can get. Okay, now S2, the score is 90. So that's what we learn about this part. Okay. We can also access the student name as one, get student name. So it is B, and then S1 get student city. So we can get also. So what information that we already input at the first time, it will be saved as the property of S. What we input here for S2, it will be saved for the property of S. Okay. Okay, I think due to the time limitation, yeah, I already explained until this part, so I will give more explanation about the remaining on the next meeting. Thank you very much for taking the class and see you next month.